Good evening, everyone. My name is Antonia Hughes, and this is going to be my case study presentation for our policy leadership class here at St. Petersburg College for the Public Policy and Administration Bachelor's Degree Program. I did my presentation at the City of Safety Harbor. It was first incorporated in 1917 and it is in Pinellas County. It is on the very eastern side. Coming from Tampa, once you cross over the Courtney Campbell Causeway, you take a right on Bayshore, you follow that road all the way down into the heart of the city. My presentation is going to be on annexation, and annexation is in the planning department of the municipality. It's going to be for a residential property located at 1258 Liddell Drive, and it's going to be for the approval of Ordinance 2026-02. I presented at the City of Safety Harbor City Hall at 750 Main Street on March 16th at their first reading. So what is annexation? It is governed by the Florida Statute 171, and the definition of annexation is the process that allows properties out of the city limits to become part of the city. So what that means is a property that is close or adjacent to a city but is not in their limits, is part of the county, meaning it's unincorporated. It could petition to become part of the city. And why would a property want to do that? When you are that close to a city, and you're located in the county, you are subject to use that city's resources. And that means that you're going to have to pay a fee to use their resources because you're not part of that city. So this property is in Pinellas County. It's technically unincorporated because it is not part of any city within the county. So instead of the county having to go far out to provide them resources like sanitation or having to run their water lines to provide sewage to this property, they require them to hook up to a nearby city's resources. There are certain requirements to go through if you want to become annexed into a city. So to start, they must be adjacent. Of course, they must be close enough to the city lines in order to become part of the city. And that also means that you cannot have random pockets of incorporated areas within unincorporated areas. So if you have like acres of land or a certain amount of space within Pinellas County, you cannot take a small piece of that space and try to make it a part of a city. It has to be uniform, it has to be adjacent, and it cannot be sporadic in random areas that just says, hey, I want to become a part of the city just so I don't have to pay. It has to be a certain guideline and respective rules in order for it to work. There are procedures in order to go through the annexation. So you must have a report. It is an outline of the plans that you are going to provide for the services for the new area. There also has to be at least 2 hearings regarding annexation. So if you are applying to be annexed within a city, you have to go through 2 public hearings in order for it to be approved. And there also has to have an ordinance that must include a map and a legal description that would demonstrate those boundaries. My expert interview. I did my interview with Cecilia Chen. She is the senior planner and GIS analyst. There are only 3 people within the planning department for this city, and one being the director, the person below the director, and then Cecilia. So it is a very small municipality. They do it all. They run everything. Cecilia did the presentation, which you'll see later on in this video. We met the Friday before the meeting. I interviewed her. We also talked about other things relating to government and urban planning, which is the department that she works in. She started out as an intern for the city of Dunedin, and she ended up staying in Florida. She went to college in New York. She ended up staying in Florida due to her internship and got a job here at the city of Safety Harbor. So what is the issue? The issue is, should this residential property be incorporated into the city of Safety Harbor limits? Should the city allow this property to become part of their area so that they are not subject to having to pay extra fees in order to siphon their resources? The commission meeting, I arrived about 30 minutes early. It was fairly empty. However, that did quickly change because that happened to be a special meeting, which I will get into in just a minute. The only person that was there on the commission board when I walked in was the city manager, Josh DeFantek. He was very warm and welcoming. He immediately greeted me as soon as I walked in, and I immediately felt comfortable. I knew that I was going to be in professional hands, and I I knew that I was going to look forward to doing good on this presentation. The next person is Andy Steingold. He gave his input on a couple of the agenda items. However, he did not have too much to say regarding this specific issue. Nancy Besor, she was in favor of approving this ordinance. She did not like the idea that they were on septic. She wanted them to get rid of it, and she wanted them to become a part of the city. Joe Ayub, which is the current mayor, he also conversed with me while I was there on the stand. Mayor Ayub was very kind and courteous to me as I gave my recommendation. They all listened attentively and seemed to be very pleased when I was finished with my presentation. Carlos Diaz, so he is the previous vice mayor. We have Nancy Wasor, that is the current vice mayor, and all the way to the right is Kevin Shanks, which is the new commissioner. So as I mentioned earlier, this was a special meeting because Carlos Diaz, he was leaving his position as vice mayor, and Mayor Joe Ayub asked Commissioner at the time, Nancy Besor, to become his new vice mayor. There are a lot of family members there, a lot of kids, a lot of people that were there to watch their family members move to the new section of their life. So again, everyone was nice. As soon as Carlos Diaz was removed from the position, Kevin Shanks was sworn in, and then from there, once they finished the ceremony, the room cleared out. Jacob Burnett, he is another commissioner. He was also one that did not have too much to say about this particular subject. However, once everyone was done with their presentation, they all agreed to approve the statute, and then there will be a second reading, I believe, in April. So stakeholders and perspectives. So to begin, obviously it'll be the developer or the owner of this property. If they were trying to sell this property, they would have to find somebody who would be okay with either living off of a septic tank and paying fees on top of their regular water bill or sewer bill in order to use Safety Harbor's resources. And then these residents, they would be the ones who be responsible for using that septic tank. If anything goes wrong with it, they would possibly be out of their sewage. Um, and then they will be the ones that are subject to paying that extra money on top of their bill to get water or sanitation services. Then we have Commissioner Nancy Besore. She was very vocal on how she did not like the septic tank being on the property and she wanted it gone. The city of Safety Harbor, they're going to receive payment regardless. So whether or not they do become annexed, they're still getting paid. So even if they're going to be paying a fee to them to use their resources or just paying them directly if they do become a part of the city, Safety Harbor is still going to get paid regardless. And lastly, we have the rest of the commission meeting. The commission members, they all agreed as soon as they did roll call to get a yea or nay. They all said yes to the approval of this ordinance. My recommendation is to approve the city ordinance 2026-02, and the residential property should be added into the city limit, ceasing any fees that are charged to the occupants and to remove the septic tank. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to live with limited resources like that, having to use a septic tank. So if they're able to be hooked up to their sewage, which they are required to, they don't have to pay a fee and they don't have to use that septic tank. And we're just going to wrap it up. I'm going to show my commission meeting. There will be a little bit of background on the full presentation, so you'll get to see the actual map and you will get to see how this ordinance is actually coming about, and you would see me provide my recommendation.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, Cecilia Chen, Senior Planner, GIS Analyst. So before you is an annexation application for 1250A Woodell Drive. So this property is located on the corner of Woodell Drive and Landfill Avenue. So this property is currently developed with the single-family residential dwelling unit, and it is located in the single-family residential dwelling zoning district. The surrounding uses are all single-family uses as well. So the applicant are applying to annex into the city to be able to connect to the city utilities. So this size of the lot is about 10,000 square feet. The future land use designation is residential low. So currently the property is connected to city water, and they are required to connect to city sewer. They are, after annexation, they're required to use city sanitation as well. And then they will be subject to streetlight fee, residential stormwater fee. And the TRC has reviewed this application and has no objections. So the second hearing of this item will be scheduled on April the 4th. And after that, there will be a zoning assignment series of hearings, which is scheduled in April and May. So tonight, the City Commission may approve or deny ordinance number 2026-02 on first reading. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yep. Am I to understand they're currently on septic and then they'll be connected to our city sewer?
It is my understanding, yes.
I'm very excited.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, Cecilia Chen, Senior Planner, GIS Analyst. So before you is an annexation application for 1250A Woodell Drive. So this property is located on the corner of Woodell Drive and Landfill Avenue. So this property is currently developed with the single-family residential dwelling unit, and it is located in the single-family residential dwelling zoning district. The surrounding uses are all single-family uses as well. So the applicant are applying to annex into the city to be able to connect to the city utilities. So this size of the lot is about 10,000 square feet. The future land use designation is residential low. So currently the property is connected to city water, and they are required to connect to city sewer. They are, after annexation, they're required to use city sanitation as well. And then they will be subject to streetlight fee, residential stormwater fee. And the TRC has reviewed this application and has no objections. So the second hearing of this item will be scheduled on April the 4th. And after that, there will be a zoning assignment series of hearings, which is scheduled in April and May. So tonight, the City Commission may approve or deny ordinance number 2026-02 on first reading. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yep.
Am I to understand they're currently on septic, and then they'll be connected to our city sewer?
It is my understanding, yes.
I'm very excited to hear this.